Hi, beautiful souls. This is Sadhana, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to have an in-depth look at the Land Sky Oracle, which is the sister oracle deck to the White Sage Tarot by Teresa Hutch. It is a 48 card oracle deck packaged much like the indie version of the tarot in a two-part cardboard box. This one has kind of a pink feature, whereas the other one is more blue. I've taken all the cards out of here now. It's challenging for me to open. So yeah, so two-part box. I just wanted to show you in case you haven't seen this deck. I have already sorted the cards in preparation for this video. We're going to do a couple of different things here. I'm going to take you through the different suits, the way the deck is organized, and then I'm going to show you some different ways that you could use the deck. This is the extra card that comes with the deck, which is a really helpful resource. It shows you how the deck is organized into 8 suits or 8 limbs, and these limbs are based on the teachings of the sage Patanjali, which comes from a text called the Yoga Sutras. If you are interested in studying this deck a little bit further, I would highly recommend getting a translation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. There's a lot of them available, and in Teresa's guidebook she does have some references to it. One of the translations that I recommend is Light on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by B.K.S. Iyengar, and I just wanted to show you what you get in these books because they're a little bit different. So for example, chapter 2, so looking at aparigraha. So chapter 2, 39, so you have the Sanskrit here, which is actually, the font is actually quite smudged throughout this whole book. I don't know if this is just this printing or because you couldn't actually practice copying this from here. It's way too smudged. And then you get each of the words broken down in a list form with a definition. And then you have a summary. So knowledge of past and future lives unfolds when one is free from greed for possessions. And then you have a discussion. So your discussion of a parigraha is here. All right. And then this is another one that I recommend. So this is 4 Chapters on Freedom by Swami Satyananda Saraswati, and just going to the same one. So in this book you have more of a summary topic. So for Sutra 39, it's called Fruits of Aparigraha. And then you have it in nice clear Sanskrit, so you could practice copying that. And then you have it in Romanized version there. And then instead of a list form, you have each of the words broken down with an English translation. So aparigraha, non-possessiveness. And each of the words you have a definition for. And then you have a summary translation. On becoming steady in non-possessiveness, there arises the knowledge of how and from where birth comes. And then there is a discussion. And just like the other book, the discussion is of varying lengths depending on the sutra. So, for example, the next one is quite a bit shorter. And then in the guidebook that comes with the deck, I just wanted to show you what you get here. So for, I know this is upside down, sorry. Aparigraha, it says simplify. It has a chakra association, and then it says aparigraha suggests to root your decision in love rather than fear. A scarcity model tells us we will never have enough but living in the Tao. So she has a quote here. So the information in the guidebook is very, very slim. If you do not have background on the concepts that are in this deck, these are very deep studies and yogic teachings. So what you get in the guidebook is just a very, it might be a reminder if you've already studied this and you forgot, oh yeah, what is the Sanskrit? What does this, the pranayama mean? And you need to refer back to your guidebook. It's a quick reference tool, but it's definitely not a study tool. You'll need to get some other kind of reference to learn or study these topics. Of course, a yoga teacher is, the best option, but there are lots of courses and lots of great books out there. So as I said, this deck is based on these 8 limbs of yoga as described in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And she has divided So these are the first 4 limbs: yama, niyama, asana, and pranayama. These are the, I guess you'd say, the 4 basic limbs, the 4 most of this earth kind of worldly, the ones that are most accessible to most people. And she has, as the major card for these suits, she has the cow on the front. So you see the young bull calf, the young calf here, and then the progression, you know, getting older. Kind of as the practices develop, the cow gets older, which is kind of a cool concept. And then for each suit, you also have sacred geometry. So you can see this suit has a color palette. It has a shape, and it also has the sacred geometry. And then if we look at the niyamas, it has a different shape and a different, the different symbol. So you can recognize the niyamas not only by the shape, but also by the symbol. Teresa has chosen to keep all the words on the cards, the keywords, in Sanskrit, for the reason that it is impossible. I don't know if this is her reason, but it's impossible to translate these words. You cannot put these neatly into one keyword. So to keep it in Sanskrit is so much easier. There's also a transmission from the Sanskrit, and it would be really nice if the Sanskrit also had the Devanagari above or somewhere on the card, because for me, the energy, the transmission comes through the Devanagari, not so much through the Roman translation. She also doesn't have the diacritics here, so you can't, like, it's asana, so there should be a line over the ah, but that's getting kind of nitpicky. Yeah. So these first 4 suits are organized very similarly. There's a similar pattern with the suits, especially the first 3. So when we look at the first card, this is asana. Not so much with the asana, but with the pranayama, so with the breath practices. So these 3 here. So she has connected these 5 cards with a chakra as well, and you'll recognize these chakra colors if you have the White Sage Tarot. So this is the root chakra color. And so as part of your self-study, part of your, if you're working with a particular card, then not only can you be studying the keyword and this yogic concept, but also its association to that particular chakra. And then you could be working with, you know, these 3 all together. One of the things Teresa does say in the book is that, especially with the pranayama practices, it's really important to have a teacher. Even though there are instructions for these breath practices in the guidebook, it's really important to learn them properly. There are contraindications for a lot of the breath practices, and it's important that you know what they are and how to do them properly. So as you go through, you will see that we go through the chakras. So then we have the Swadhisthana chakra, the sacral chakra, and then we go on upwards. Now the asana cards are not necessarily organized by chakra, but if you know something about asana, then you could, you know, work with that. So for example, Tadasana works very well with root chakra because that is your, you know, it's a very foundation posture, has that sense of stability and structure and safety as well too. It's also a base posture that you usually start from. Bhujangasana would work really well, you know, if you're working with the Swadhisthana chakra, because your pelvis is rooted into the floor, and you know, you could draw connections between the cards that have the Swadhisthana, here we go, Swadhisthana is here. You could draw connections between the cards with the Swadhisthana coloring with the posture. But that's something that may or may not work with what you're doing. And then the next card is, of course, yellow for the solar plexus. And then you have a green card for the Anahat chakra. So again, as part of your self-study, you would work with, you know, what does this mean? What does brahmacharya mean to you? How do you bring the the concept of brahmacharya into your life, and what is the connection between brahmacharya and the heart chakra. So that is, there's a lot of depth to these cards. These cards are, I think, aimed at yoga, serious yoga students who are taking their yoga far beyond their asana practice, also at yoga teacher training, or perhaps with a more intimate yoga class where teachers had time to discuss some of these concepts during the yoga class, or it could be a theme for a yoga class as well too. And then there's 2 cards that draw connections to the throat chakra. And then the final breath practice card is Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing, which is usually associated as a third eye Agnya chakra practice. And then with the asana cards, so there's 5 asana practices: Vrikshasana, Matsyasana, Ustrasana, Bhujangasana, and Tadasana that we already looked at. So you have a picture here. So we have cobra posture, camel posture, fish posture, and tree posture. And so you could use these as a focal point for your day, for your week, or just for contemplation, and then do some study and look into the deeper aspects of Vrikshasana. Vrikshasana is a wonderful posture that goes well with, when you're working on your nervous system, for balance, and all of that kind of connects to your intuition and things like that. So there's lots of ways to bring these cards together. So those are the first 4 suits or limbs of this deck. And then for the next 4 limbs, we have a little different organization, but you still have a major card. And we have an owl now representing the upper 4 chakras. So hence the title Land Sky. So the owl represents the sky and the cow represents the land. And this owl is in kind of different states of being. And we have pratyahara, which is the practices of sense withdrawal, and then dharana are the beginning of concentration practices, and then we move towards meditation. Dhyan and samadhi don't actually have practices unto themselves. Once you have mastered your dharana practices, you naturally move into dhyan and samadhi. And as far as yoga goes, there's the word meditation generally refers to all of these practices. And so I think it's really good that she kept the Sanskrit words on here, because they have a very specific meaning in the teachings of yoga. For these 4 suits, you also have the sacred geometry. So she has associated with each of these suits 1 crystal, 1 tool, something she calls an aim. So that would be, something you would, a positive aspect, and then a challenging aspect, and also a deity. And so for each of these suits, the sacred geometry is done the same way as it is on the first 4 suits. So those are the major cards. Here are the 4 deity cards. So we have Hanuman, Buddha, and Kali and Ganesh. And you'll see on these cards, they have their association, the sacred geometry, the mandalas down at the bottom, so that associates them with a suit or a limb. You also have a keyword in English. So what do you do with these cards? Well, you could use it as a focal point for meditation or for journaling. You could also do a little bit of study into why the author has chosen that particular keyword for that particular deity. Like, why is passion associated with Kali? Why is devotion associated with Hanuman? And this would be, these are huge questions, because Hanuman was a great devotee of Rama, and you could read some chapters or some of the sections from the Ramayana and try to understand, why this is such a brilliant keyword for Hanuman. And the artwork is just lovely. I really, really like these 4 cards. Even just placing one of them on your altar, would be a wonderful thing to do. These are the 4 challenge cards. And they look like challenges to me. So these are concepts that you could study through the Yoga Sutra book, or you could just study from any particular reference. You do get a little bit of information in the guidebook. So for example, let's go to Raga. Desire, obstacle. Let go of identifying with and clinging to things and experiences. You have the power to make decisions in your life. Attachment is that which follows identification with pleasurable experiences. Yoga Sutra 2.7. So knowing that as Yoga Sutra 2.7, you could then go to your larger reference book and do a little bit more self-study. And then she has a quote, "My heart holds the key beyond all my cravings." These are the 4 positive attribute cards. So like the challenging cards, you could choose one of these as a weekly or monthly self-study. These are the 4 crystal cards. Again, associated with one of the limbs, and you have an English keyword. And then in the guidebook, you have some information about the particular crystal and the name of the crystal and the energy of the crystal. So these cards could be used independently. They could be focal points on your altar, or you could build these into your practice and kind of figure out how does amethyst connect and fit with the other cards of this particular suit. Or you could choose, maybe you randomly drew the amethyst card and you randomly drew one of the yama cards, and you could look at the message and the interaction between that particular yama and the energy of that particular crystal card. And then you have a choice, right? You can either work with the limbs as Teresa has organized them, or you can just mix and match the cards, because any of these crystals will help you to bring clarity and focus to the other teachings and the other concepts in the deck as well. These 4 cards are referred to as yogic tools, which could be used with any of the practices and all of the practices throughout your exploration with this deck. What are some different ways you could use this deck rather than just shuffling all the cards together, which I don't think is the forte of this deck? So here's just 2 of those little 4-card piles. You could choose the crystal pile and the challenge pile. And perhaps this is your focus for the month, these 2 piles. And so this week, you're going to work with this particular challenge card, Abhinivesha, which is fear of death, and you're going to work with the clear quartz crystal. And perhaps you have some clear quartz that you can bring into this, but you're going to do some reflection and some journaling about Abhinivesha. You could read more in a Yoga Sutra translation about what Abhinivesha means and how that has been a part of your life and what that means to you. And then as you sit quietly in contemplation, you could be holding clear quartz, or you could be just holding this card, because this card hopefully will help bring clarity to your understanding of Abhinivesha. And then similarly, you could take the 4 positive aim cards and the 4 deity cards, and you could mix these ones up. And you randomly choose the Buddha and Kama. And so for your daily, weekly focus, for your journaling, for your contemplation, for your walks in the forest, this is going to be your focal point and your point of self-study. I think there's an unlimited number of possibilities for this deck. The artwork is just beautiful, and the guidebook is just a stepping off place to start working with this. If you are a yoga teacher or a yoga teacher trainer, there's lots of ways that this deck could be brought into a class or into a teacher training. I hope this video brings awareness to the Land Sky Oracle, and I look forward to reading your comments and questions below. If you have any questions about your own yogic practices or any of the concepts in this deck, I'd be happy to answer those questions as well too. Stay well, my friends. Namaste.